Okay, thank you. Sergeant at Arms, I was expecting you to bring the documents from Mr. Derick so that we qualify the person seated behind for us. Okay, the nominee before us, before this committee of county security, administration, and disaster management. Can you confirm if you are Derick Epae?
Chair and the honorable members, my name is Derick Epae. I confirm.
Thank you. Then proceed with the word of prayer. Let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and county assemblies for the welfare of the society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our county and of those whose interest you have committed to our church. Amen. Thank you. I then call upon the legal counsel to proceed with the oath.
I, Derick Epae, do swear by the Almighty God that everything that I shall say in this approval hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you and welcome Mr. Derick. Relax. We'll have a number of questions to take you through. But before we do it, we'll from the honorable members, then I'll call upon the Secretariat, and we'll continue from there. Honorable members, kindly can we introduce yourself, starting from my right.
I'm Honorable Abdi Fatah Kapua, member representing sovereign people of Kane, Kaikor, and also the Deputy Majority Leader. Thank you. Pleasure.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Vincent Ikpot, representing Chojo Port, and the minority whip in Turkana County Assembly, and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
I am now Epae Nyawule, MCA representing Kibish Ward. Also, I am vice chairperson of this committee. Thank you.
I am Honorable Epae, special elected member, and also I'm a deputy minority whip, and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Honorable Makate Ramajong, MCA Lima Ward, also a member of this very committee.
Honorable special elect Panano, Rapu Ward. I am a member. I'm the senior member.
Honorable
Selina Epae, special elect Turkana East, and my member.
Thank you, honorable members. The committee, for the knowledge of the nominee, comprises of 9 members and a host of secretariat. The secretariat include the following. We have Brenda Mana, the committee clerk, Gladys Moru, Ansak, Paul Advocate, is also the committee clerk, Mary Chan, Charge of Media, Isaac Nakali, Sergeant at Arms, Regan Ekaran, Sergeant at Arms, Mark Mekede, Charge of Media, just in front of you, Jeffrey Kebo, Ansat Audio, Cosmas Nama, Research Officer, and finally, we have Vincent Lamor, the Legal Counsel. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Patrick Esekon in the House, who has just come as one of us to reason and maybe be an amicus curiae in the House. Then I want to bring to the attention of all of us the following, that honorable members, the nominee for the office of Chief Officer, Administration and Disaster Management, members of the public, I want to welcome you once again to the chambers, and we're free. Honorable members, the position of Chief Officer is part of the executive appointments contemplated in Section 45 of the County Government Act No. 17 of 2012, and the County Assembly is therefore mandated to fetch and approve the appointment of their respective portfolio. Honorable members, the vetting process is approximately supposed to take 1.5 hours. According to the Public Appointments Act 2017, Section 5.1, the nominee was notified to appear before the relevant secretarial committee in this House, and which is the committee in sitting. Honorable members, according to Section 16 of Ethics and Integrity Act, read together with the County Assembly of Turkana, Standing Order number 100, Part 1, any member who is likely to be conflicted has to declare the nature of interest, whether individually, personal, propriety, close family members, or peculiarly. A member who wishes to speak on any matter in which the member has a personal interest shall first declare that interest, and the member will neither score nor ask the nominee a question, and will remain silent or opt out of the vetting venue or process. These proceedings are open to the members of the public, and they are live on HME Radio, FM, County Assembly official Facebook page, and YouTube. So for the conflict of interest, I want to take 1 minute to maybe refer to members if any of you has a conflict of interest in the same matter. Thank you. Similarly, I would like to draw the attention of the members of the public who are seated in the gallery that during the vetting process, they are required all times to maintain silence. Phones off, and there shall be minimal movement that are likely to distract the committee or the nominee. The Sergeant at Arms is under strict instructions to eject any person who flouts these orders. I want to make a plea to the nominee to be precise. Thank you, and welcome once again, Mr. Epae. My first concern. Before we go to, we have you are which from the advert onwards. You are supposed to have failed them when you present yourself before this committee. Can you make explanation of the same?
Honorable Chair and honorable members of the committee, Regrettably, I did not carry my certificates, not because I did not intend to carry them. When I was catching a flight to come over, I had a bag that had the certificates. I carried the wrong bag. I only realized that this morning when I was coming over here. So, and there's nothing I could do between now and the time I was appearing here. But these documents are available in soft scanned copies, which are in color, which can be available to this committee. They will also be availed if you insist that they be availed. They can be availed. I'm imagining those are not documents that you can send via any. I was wondering whether you can send them by flight, but I don't think I want to take that risk. It should be a matter that I take it personally. I will avail the documents to this committee. But I have appeared with the Public Service Board. When I appeared there, I had my documents, original certificates. So that is the explanation that I have, Chair, and that is regrettable.
Noted. The Chair instructs you therefore to, between when we are done with the approval hearing procedure, you will still provide us with the documents before we are done with the writing the reports. So between now and that time, which is 20th April, we will have either got the scanned documents on hard copy or avail the original ones for us to check as required by the law.
Much obliged, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. We can now proceed. We'll have a number of questions from each member. I want to request you to relax. You have been supplied with a notebook, a pen, and some water, which is still adequate within the assembly. When I'm done with the 2 bottles, and we still have more time to continue with the questions, you will still be given more. Welcome. Thank you. My first question goes to is that who is this man called Derick Epae? Number 2, you need to note them down. Kindly tell us about yourself. Who is this man called Derick Epae? Number 2, what is your net worth? What is your net worth? Deferred income and sources of these. The sources of income you have. But Mr. Derick, you must be outstanding in your career, and that is why the governor has nominated you in this portfolio. What makes you stand out? Because this was so long, 112. Then you were outstanding. What makes you outstanding? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Derick Epae Koli, born in Turkana, going to school is by chance. I would say that because first, secondly, primary school in Lokichar, mixed primary school, where I admitted myself and went to Stareboy's later. And I think I was privileged at one point in 1997 to be the best student in Turkana district that time. So that's how I got the scholarship to go and study free in Stare. And since then I went to Kenyatta University for my undergraduate degree in environmental studies, community development option. I finished that in 2007. I went to do my master's in Masters of Arts in International Relations at USIU, United States International University, Africa, in Nairobi, and completed in 2010. And somewhere in 2009, I got employed in the Parliamentary Research Commission. That is where I have served until today. In between there, I have also studied several other courses, professional courses. I am a certified public secretary. I have a degree in law. I have also a postgraduate diploma in law. I am a member of the Law Society of Kenya as well. Chair, that is what I would say about myself. So I'm a career civil servant. So I have over 15 years now working. Going to the question, Chair, net worth minus, I believe this is minus my liabilities. Maybe somewhere around 96 million. 96 million. Deferred income, I have investment in a circle, doing the circle. I have also some policies, insurance policies. There's also terms of some another speech. I'm not necessarily. Thank you. Yeah, that particular one. If you also parliamentary director. That's not a mean achievement. I am also a firm person in terms of in my relationship with people. If I take to that, I believe that such.
Thank you very much. Mr. Derick, your CV with us here indicates that you have been working in the Senate as a senior officer of the legislative body. And that job, by itself, job security and such. Now, sometimes what is this interest? You
Yeah, no, no. serving to achieve. That doesn't mean so. So that tells you I have also been there's a space you will see that I also expressed interest to be the clerk of the county assembly at some point. So you look at it, likewise, I have also expressed interest to work as a speaker of this county assembly. That's something that is on record. So this means that I have wanted to come and work for my people. It's not, why do you think Turkanas deserve less? If Turkana also can benefit from the best it has in terms of capital, in human capital. So I have had interest to work here in this county, and that is what I think thank you. You have proper
The members, the honorable members, and comes from Honorable Epae, who also doubles as the vice chair for this committee. Welcome, Oshino.
One question for nominee. Portfolio, namely, management. What does it entail? Let me repeat again. This portfolio has two components, namely administration and disaster management. What does it entail?
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I believe this particular docket is where the main central administration, or where you will get administrators. The first segment of the docket is the administration docket. I believe this is where you will have the main administration of people who are the administrators. If you have some village admins and all that level. So that's the human admin, as well as the county headquarters in terms of where do you have the management, the control of the government. And the disaster management bit is the, how well are we, is that segment that looks for the disaster preparedness, early warning systems in terms of getting information on our disaster issues, how you manage those disasters, how sustainable can we get, how can we prevent those disasters. This is the department that deals with those issues. And I believe that is in a nutshell, that is what constitutes this department that I will be heading.
Thank you. Thank you. Question which one will also this house.
I would like the nominee also at 2012 officers have distinct roles. And I explained to the committee the silence that exists between your portfolio as the chief officer, administration and the disaster management, the county secretary, who happens to be the head of the public service, the county public service board. And finally, yes, as a conflict, yes, those. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, you are also supposed to have asked 2 questions. I had asked members around you to brief you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. And then the last part of my questions are, if the county assembly, this Turkana County Assembly approves you or approves your nomination, a CC for finance will designate you an accounting officer for the department and pass one to the provisions of Public Finance Management Act of 2012. What are some of the laws that will assist you to discharge your functions, and how will you ensure prudence in financial management?
Thank you. I think the question from Honorable Philip Andrea to the nominee. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair and the members. The synergy between us and between my office and that of the County Secretary and County Public Service Board is, I understand the work of the role of the County Secretary as the head of public service is the coordination of ministerial affairs and also being a secretary to the CC committee. So there are decisions that are made at the level of CC committee. This particular person, the county secretary, is the person that relays this information to the various ministries, action required from my ministry. So that means I will have to work together with this person in terms of briefing them, giving them updates on what is happening in the ministry on quarterly or monthly basis, so that he's aware, and in terms of implementation of matrices that might come from the CC meetings. This is the person that I will work with in terms of reporting progress on what is happening in my particular ministry. On the other hand, you have the county service, county public service board, which is the employer. If you have disciplinary issues, they have to go to. That's where they have to end up to. If you have any issues in terms of personnel issues, in terms of management, in terms of allowances, in terms of payment, in terms of secondment, in terms of deployment, so this is the body that will have to deal with these matters. So in that case, I will have to work together with these 2 bodies to make sure that what is happening in my ministry is backed by what these officers also enjoy in terms of the power they enjoy. Because if you want to employ somebody, this is the board that employs those officers. If you are recommending for establishment of a directorate or any office in this department, you have to deal with the county public service board. In terms of conflict, Chair, I think I got the impression that the conflict may not necessarily be in these 2 bodies. The conflict can be wider. It can be in all other directorates or any other bodies. And what entails the conflict here will be where I am not in a position to I perceive this conflict to be where I'm not in a position to make an independent, an objective decision, or where I'm under, because of my relationship with these people, something is likely to be compromised in terms of that professionalism and independent decision making. So, how do I deal with these matters? Chair, when we began this meeting, you asked members of this committee to declare whether they have an interest that is likely to affect the way they relate with us in this particular approval hearing. So, and that is the best way to deal with these matters. Where you have an interest, you excuse yourself from the decision making of that particular issue. Because all about it is, first, what the law requires as we sit here today is that declaration. Secondly, you don't need to participate in the decision making of that particular issue which you have an interest in. So I believe that is what we have not gotten, Mr. Chair, we have not gotten to a position where once you declare, once you don't participate, what other mechanisms are there. So, but that is what the law requires that we do as of today. If the county assembly approves me today, CC Finance will designate me as an accounting officer. What laws do I interact with? One is the Public Finance Management Act with its regulations, attendant regulations. You have the Public Disposal and Asset Disposal Act, which deals with matters procurement. Those are the main laws that I really think I will be dealing with as an accounting officer of the ministry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Derick. Back to Honorable Philip, in case there is a supplementary question from his responses.
Maybe just a quick one, Honorable Chair. The nominee has just only given 2 laws. I don't know if the Employment Act may not be useful to him, given that he's the one in charge of administration.
Chair, there are many other laws, but as an accounting officer, you will strictly be dealing with issues finance, but in terms of HR issues, I think there is another department in this ministry that deals with HR matters, and it will deal more closely with those human resource matters. I think there is another different department that deals with employment issues, disciplinary. Even in my docket, you may have those cases as chair. I also see on the basis that the officers you will be handling will still require to undergo all those processes. That is another law. We also have PPOA. So as another body that deals with procurement matters in terms of conflicts that arise from time to time. So, but I say the main laws that I will be dealing with will be those 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We can proceed to our next question from Honorable Vincent.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, we would like to welcome me to our assembly, and I have 2 questions. First, the first one: climate change continues to wreak havoc across the globe, and Turkana is not spared either. In collaboration with other relevant departments and partners, what measures can you propose to mitigate the effect of climate change? Am I clear?
Yes.
So I continue with the other question.
Yes.
Number 2, drought is cyclic and not continuous. In drought management, there are specific interventions at every drought stage. What do you think the county government should do to avoid reacting to drought emergencies? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with the climate change mitigation measures. Although we do not, as a country, although our climate change contribution is almost negligible as compared to other developed nations, climate change is here and we are feeling the effects in our region. We have a department in the this is a new phenomenon because even recently that a council was formed and even the nominees to that council were approved recently in the national government, and I believe the same is being replicated downwards in terms of making recommendations on how this can be managed. In terms of mitigation measures for climate change, we are talking about, we're looking at things like, for us, we look at indigenous afforestation. We are looking at that together, intertwined together with other afforestation measures that can be said to be foreign trees or something like that, but those that are known to attract rain. We have to also to look at what is our intake in terms of charcoal burning. This is something that I've been thinking about because even the areas I am residing in and around the Cheremot area, you will find that people continue to deplete our indigenous trees, and nothing is being replaced. So the recommendation here would be in those areas of forestation. The other issue will be in terms of mitigation, in terms of food security, we'll look at irrigation. That will also go hand in terms of making sure that that particular water is also. There is also the issue of water in terms of long-lasting solution in that area of groundwater, which we have. The second point, Chair, is the drought mitigation, drought intervention. So, none of us knows when the next drought is likely to happen. The only thing that we can do, Chair, is to look at our sustainable livelihoods. What can constitute what we call sustainable livelihoods in our area of jurisdiction. In Turkana County, sometimes people are told you have an alternative of pastoral people are told you have an alternative of going to grow crops, go plant maize. But in my view, that approach will not be, because some of these people are people who are used to keeping animals. What, in my view, constitutes a livelihood that is sustainable for those people who are used to that way of life is not the alternative of planting. The alternative of planting can only be available to those people who have known that livelihood since they were born. That can also be a livelihood that is available to those people, young people who have been introduced to agriculture at their nascent stages, at their young stages. So, Chair, I will look at preparedness. How are we prepared? Information gathering in terms of early warning mechanisms. So you will say, for instance, one of the drought indications is you will have to put our early warning officers, people who collect information from the various regions that are prone to this drought, so that at every village, at every level of our kraal, or we can call it kraals, at every level, you have people who report that information in terms of how far are we, so that you have accurate information in terms of interventions that you will provide. We are not likely to prevent droughts from happening. We can only be prepared. We can only take routes that are sustainable in terms of our resource exploitation, water, food security, and grazing or pasture areas. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vincent. Any supplementary question is there within the response?
Mr. Chair, because of time, I will allow our members to ask.
Very well, Honorable Vincent. Moving ahead. The next honorable member to ask the question is Honorable Abifata. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I have a question to ask the nominee regarding relief food. Turkana continues to be reliant on food relief. Every time there is droughts, what else can we do differently as a chief officer in the department to ameliorate effects of drought? 2, which way to go? Food relief or cash transfer? And why your choice for either? 3, distribution of food relief has been amorphous in this county. How will your department ensure identification of deserving beneficiaries is done? Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. As Chair, relief food in our situation is the last resort that we have. It's not only the last resort that we have. It may not be a good thing if you, for us who are here. But from where I sit in my interaction with the locals who are affected by these particular droughts, the people who are affected by lack of anything that to eat, and I want us to give 2 scenarios. One is for those people who rely on livestock as a way of life. The reason why relief to me may not be apparently not here. So, 2, the poor people in our villages here, local towns, who have nothing. You can call them even the people who are not even chana brewers. Chana brewers and these other ones may also be having a source of income. But you have people in our villages who have nothing. Some of them are old, some of them are disabled or not able to fend for any living through any other means. And our people, that and the other people, the pastoralist people. So what do they rely on? They rely on livestock selling of livestock to get food. In a time like this, when there's a drought, you can't sell even a goat. You have goats which are macheted, they don't have anything. You can't sell that goat, particular goat. If you are to sell, it can't fetch anything meaningful. A bag of maize now is around 3,000. During a time for drought, you can't sell a goat, the big one, for 3,000. You can't sell. If you are to sell, you will sell 3 goats for that particular issue. So relief normally is an intervention that relieves people from that hardship when they are hard pressed. So, and for me, as long as that relief food is well targeted, in terms of who requires, and in terms of drought, when there is drought in the pastoral areas, people who have animals, sometimes targeting may not even help us. Targeting people may not help us, even at that particular time. Because all of them are vulnerable, because even those who have got, you can sell them. I would say relief food utilized at a deserving stage is better than cash transfers. Why? Cash transfers encourages what we call lazy behavior amongst our people. You see, cash transfers, because I have people who receive cash transfers. I have an aunt who received the other day 8,000 shillings. 8,000 shillings. Within 2 days, she can say she requires money from us. Within 2 days, hiyo pesa yote inatumika kwa pombe na nyama. You see, that person, that mentality of cash transfer, if you are thinking that something is coming at the end of the month, is not what will empower people. In my view, what will empower people is that support that comes at that stage when they have an alternative. Extreme weather that I have given, that situation, you are not, and that boat cannot fetch any money in the market. So, as opposed to cash transfer, which encourages a livelihood that is reliant on something foreign, you will just be lazy, sit down and wait for that money to come. Distribution of food. Chair, I would want to ask that the member comes up again on that issue of distribution of food and identification of beneficiaries.
The question was, Turkana continues to be reliant on food relief every time there is drought. What else can you do differently as a chief officer in this department to ameliorate effects of drought? Which way to go? Food relief or cash transfer? And why your choice for either?
Honorable Member, he has answered part of the question. He was only referring to the last part of the question.
Last part, distribution of food relief. Distribution of food relief has been amorphous in this county. How will your department ensure identification of deserving beneficiaries is done?
Thank you, Chair. I understand there are mechanisms of identifying deserving Kenyan people in the county, but that identification, from where I sit, has not been truthful in many occasions. Why? One, because it is perceived that those people who have animals, who are able to, if you went to, maybe the only place that we can say you can identify accurately people who deserve this food is, let's say, in towns or villages that are like Lodwa. You have a village like Naguamekui where you can identify people and say this one is poor. In this household, people are employed. In this one, this person is disabled. But it is easy that way, because if you put officers that are, if you monitor how that information is collected, you have an enforcement policy where you follow up to make sure that a random checks on what happens after you send officers to do this identification. But as I have said, Chair, in our other pastoral areas, it may not be. The story is not the same, because I have given an example where you have a drought. All of them, somebody who has 10 cows and somebody who has 2, there will be no difference. You will go there, as much as you see this one has 10 cows, but he can't sell. That person cannot sell 10 cows. So that targeting of beneficiaries in our pastoral setup is a bit problematic. So that means you have to target, in the pastoral area, you have to target differently. That intervention must come at a time when everybody when you know everybody else is in problem. Or alternatively, you can have two sets of targeting. You have a continuous relief that continues to be there to cater for the poor people, those who are having that one cow. I'm giving an example of one cow versus 10 cows. You can have that group that benefits continuously. But my issue is, what are we doing to make sure that the person with one cow has 10 cows in the future? If we give them relief food from January to December, that's the problem I have with that kind of targeting. That's why I'm saying that my way of looking at it would be target at the stages when they are vulnerable, give them that food to sustain them to the next season. When they have rain, when they can sell the animals. That is what I can say, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Bifacha, do you have any follow-up question or are you okay?
Chair, I do not have any follow-up questions.
Thank you. We are proceeding well. We are moving to Honorable Selina Nakobe for your question. Welcome.
Thank you. Chair. Honorable Epae. The country has just been in a long spell of drought. What are your recovered measures going forward if given the opportunity by the county assembly to serve as chief officer? The country has just been in a long spell of drought. What are your recovery measures going forward if given the opportunity by the county assembly to serve as chief officer? Disaster.
Mr. Epae, is the question clear?
Yes.
There it is. Proceed.
Chair and members of the committee, recovery measures here looks at my long-term plan for this document. One, Chair, I believe in empowering people. Not giving them handouts. So the first thing, if the person is a pastoral person who keeps goats, what he knows best to do as a livelihood is those goats. I do not believe in alternative livelihood to a 50 years old or a 70 years old person. So to me, the first thing is, if you have resources, you can restore. You can do restocking. For those who have lost their animals through that drought, the first priority will be restocking, because that is what they know how to do best. You give somebody 10 goats, tomorrow he has 90. Let me give you a story why I think that is what they know best. In 1991, around 1991, I was privileged to have been born in a family that was well off that time, in terms of animals, well off. But in 1991, we were reduced to zero, nothing. I was the only person who remained with around 50 or 100 goats. 100 goats, we were around 5 siblings, boys in that family. 50 goats from thousands. I don't know what numbers were they. But the 50 goats in 1997, all of them had gone back to that livelihood. All of them. 5 of them, I am the only one who went to school and I continued. So that's why I believe it is the only thing that they know how to do best. So that restocking is the main thing. How are we preparing for the future droughts? That's the other plan. That's the other thing that I think is important. Are we able to get information on as I talked earlier, early warning system information? Are we able to get that correctly so that we can intervene appropriately? That is the other investment that I want us to do to make as a county, so that you are able to get information in the right time. What are those vulnerabilities? How many people have lost stock in that particular period, so that we are able to capture that correctly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There is in order. We now have one more question from myself before I head to two remaining members for two more questions. That pursuant to the County Government Act, administration in the county has been decentralized to the village level. That is, we have the sub-county administrators, we have the ward administrators, we have the village administrators, and now we are awaiting to complete the circuit by the village council. As a chief officer for disaster management and decentralized administration, you will be in charge of coordination of default functions at sub-county, wards, and village levels. Explain to this committee how you will ensure staff posted to each of these levels operate from their stations. How you will ensure staff posted to these levels operate from their stations. Part B of the question is that the sub-county, ward administrators, village administrators are referred to as the grassroots representative of the governor in each level they are in charge of. But during project implementation, a number of times they have been sidelined, leading to some shoddy and sketch projects being done by the contractors. If this house approves you, what will you do differently so that we may not have so many incomplete and shoddy projects, which to us, I think it's because that level has been cut outside the normal coordination, the normal supervision of the projects in the respective jurisdiction areas. Part C. This county assembly is aware that despite this robust decentralization of administration, these officers, that is sub-county administrators, ward administrators, and village administrators, are not well facilitated in a bid to make their offices very well operational. These units, if you are approved, how will you ensure that these offices work to the best for the reason why they were created? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing that I will do once I take this position, Chair, if you approve my nomination, is to do what I will call an audit, governance audit. How was this department of the operation operating? Who are the officers here in this particular department? How have decisions been made in this department? That audit is not an in-depth audit to tell me who has been doing what wrong. It's an audit to show me where there are gaps, where you have gaps in terms of decision making, where you have problematic systemic issues that have affected the way these officers operate. For instance, you will have an award admin. I will imagine award admin in Kakalel. Kakalel, authority is near to. I'm going to give examples that are in Turkana South. What will be the problem that makes the ward admin or village admin in Loperot not stay in his office, in the ward. So essentially, that audit will tell me what has been happening, what is the problem, what problems do these officers have in terms of being stationed there. Have they been facilitated? Is there an issue of finance in terms of operationalizing that office? So that audit will give me that information. I will use that information to institute measures that will address the problem. To ensure that, because if officers have a problem, Chair, on the ground in terms of administrative issues, I'm trying to imagine, because I had a case where you have a person who is not a local being deployed to a certain area. That area, in terms of admin, in terms of management, village admins, you have these transfers. You will look at the rationale of saying, if you are employed from Turkana South, you can work in Lahori as a village admin. What are the advantages and disadvantages of having that system for us? You look at those issues, Chair, so that because just looking at them and saying, you are an employee of the county government, you can be posted anywhere, may not help us in achieving what we want to achieve in those units. So I will look at those issues and find a way of addressing them. In terms of the other issue that I think this village admin being the administration reps, vis-a-vis development plans and what happens in the county, I think we will look at those issues in terms of politics. That means you have to work with the MCA, local MCA in a ward. You have to bring them together with the village admin and ward admins, so that you have a mechanism where this is a county government that must work together. So you can't have an MCA working alone on the other hand, an administrator working alone on the other hand. I will try to find a middle ground where I'm working with MCA, I'm working with the administrator together, so that, because without any of them, that development agenda that you intend to achieve can be achieved. Officers not well facilitated to operationalize their work. Chair, that is what I have alluded to earlier. I said you need to get to know what are the operational issues that are affecting the work of these officers in the field. Once I know that, Chair and members of this committee, I will institute appropriate measures to make sure that these officers work in those offices. If there is facilitation that is required, this county assembly is the one that I will come back to the county assembly during the budgeting process and seek your assistance in terms of setting up those offices and making them work in terms of allocation of finances, if that is the problem. Because, Chair, as we speak today, we are, if you allow me, without prejudice to anything, we are trying to look for problems amongst ourselves. I have been working in the national government. The dynamics in the county could be different. There will be systemic problems that are affecting these people. I can only do that through what I've said. I will do an audit, know what the problem is, whether there is a political will that is required, because I am a nominee for the governor. So I will bring those issues to the table. Tell the governor, this is what is required, this is what we need with my minister, CC. We will talk and see how that matter is resolved. Thank you, Chair.
You have not touched this part of them not supervising directly the projects, and that is why sometimes we feel like as an house, we have allocated resources for some projects. But when we go to the ground, we find that the projects have not been done to the best standards.
Chair, I think part of the problem, if purpose as an ordinary citizen is to go by. Chair, this house is the one that oversights these institutions. This house is in a better position to look at those problems and recommend better ways of handling that matter. But if you look at how certain things have been happening, and let's be honest here, if you have an MCA, if you have a person who was an MCA, is nominated to be admin, he wants to be an MCA in the next cycle of election, and you have a sitting MCA who now wants to be, who is now in charge, currently in charge. I have seen that animosity bringing problems because the MCA also wants to be in charge of the projects in the constituency. I'm only giving examples that I know as an ordinary citizen. There are issues that have come where the administrator, where you have an admin, the MCA cannot sit in that meeting. But as a person that I am, those are not problems that I think will happen in my department as I work there. Because I will work with you, with members of this house, and that is something that I bring from the national government where I have worked in the legislature. I know how they can help us as the executive work. I know how the recommendations you can make. I know what you can go to the field. I know what is happening in the field and say, point out that problem. This is the problem that we have. And we will be able to make appropriate measures to make sure that these institutions are properly. Yeah.
Thank you. We're moving ahead. Our next question will come from Honorable Akeru Mark. Welcome.
Honorable Chair, allow me to put some integrated question to the nominee. What is your understanding of the concept of conflict of interest? B. In what form does conflict of interest arise in your understanding? Z. Kindly give a practical example of your leadership skills where conflict of interest arises under your watch.
Yes. Let me attempt to answer. I have alluded to a conflict of interest earlier on. I have said a conflict of interest arises where you are independent, objective, and professional way of doing things affected or compromised by, and how is it compromised? By either your relationship. It can be your blood relationship, it can be your friend, it can be your neighbor, it can be your in-law, or it can be through an inducement for a fee where you are, the normal is corruption. The normal one, the most obvious one is corruption, where you are given something so that you look the other side. You don't do what you are supposed to do. I have alluded to the forms of that conflict of interest. So that means where that conflict of interest arises, where you know you are likely not to work professionally. Normally what do people do? One, you recuse yourself. If you are in a court of law or if you are in a meeting in a member of a committee, you recuse yourself. Leave that meeting so that you don't participate in the decision making. What else do you do? People have resigned. Where if you see something happens persistently, somebody tells you to do this, and you know this is not the right thing to do. What do? You resign. it will be honorable for him to do that resignation so that you avoid that particular conflict of interest, where that conflict arises. I will give you a scenario. I used to serve in what committee? Public County Public Accounts Committee. I believe you have a similar committee here. In 2016, I was serving in that committee as a clerk assistant. The clerk assistant is the head of the secretariat. You understand this? Is in our case, you are the head of the secretariat, and you have a Hansard person, you have audio, you have the legal officer, you have the research people, media, protocol, people in that committee. So a famous governor appeared in the committee, and because he knew that the person who has that record, the person who is in charge of that committee is the clerk. So after the meeting, one of my, because we were 3 clerk assistants in that committee, I was in charge. So one of my junior officers comes and tells me, down here, we are in a story building. Down here, we have a vehicle from this governor. This governor is one of the people who was feared, interestingly. That and he says he wants that answer. He wants answer of what transpired in the committee. So I told him, he wants that answer, yes. Okay, where is he? He's in that vehicle down there. So I said, oh, that's what he says, yes, okay. Let me go and see him. So luckily, that person was a member of parliament. That particular governor was a member of parliament previously. So I went to him and said, these officers, you will imagine these officers were terrified and they thought this is now something bad. I went to that governor and said, Governor, how are you? You okay? Yes. Did you send some officer to come and see me on a certain moment? Yes, I'm waiting. I have been waiting here. So I told him, you have been a member of parliament. I don't record answer. That answer is with somebody else. It's in the Department of Hazard and Audio Services. The second thing, I can't give it. The clerk is the one that gives. Under his seal. So he says, no, but you can give me. I said, no, but you know the process, what I can do, I can take you to the clerk. So we can go, you can just alight. We go to the clerk's office. I will hand you over there. Then he says, it's okay, I know the office of the clerk. And he went. He did not come back, he did not ask us that report. Again, he never asked us. So, there was a conflict of interest in that particular matter. I had the report. I had answered. Is it allowed to be given? No, it's not supposed to be given. How do you navigate those influences that come along your way when you are confronted with such a matter? Is it just enough to say, me, I don't do deeds? No, it's not enough to say I don't do deeds. It is a way, it's how you navigate and say what do your leadership skill tells you. They will tell you, here, I do not need to offend this person. I just need to take the power out of me. Power out of myself. I am not the person making that decision. It is somebody else. So from that point, this person will deal with the members. From that point, they never came back to me. Nobody came back to me to say, but I I am the person who will get a lot of power. So that is one example that I can give and say leadership is required. You do not need to shout about certain things. You need to provide leadership. And those officers were okay. All of us were safe. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. We now move to Honorable Rebecca for the next person.
Thank you, Chair. I also have one question to ask the nominee. That it is within the knowledge of this committee that you had a desire to contest for the position of Speaker of County Assembly, but you were not successful. How are you going to work with the Assembly given past outcomes?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. I think this issue is addressing my having expressed interest in working. In fact, it is even the work of a county assembly. I had expressed interest earlier in working as a clerk of the county assembly. I had expressed interest as the speaker. I have expressed interest earlier as the chief officer, which I'm getting if you approve me today. I think, Chair, it would be fair to say this. Kuna msemo anasema mwenye anatafuta hachoki. Akichoka amefanya nini? Ashapata. Is it going to be an issue? I don't think it's going to be an issue, because when you are looking for something, you are looking for desire to get a position to serve your people. So I think I am not a person who holds anything against anybody who got a position, because we are many. Even when we applied for this job, we were many. Only a few of us got this job. Are those people who did not get this job going to say, Derick, why is it that you got that job? Somebody else as the speaker. That person is serving us now. We will work with him together, serve the people of Turkana. Somebody got a job to be a clerk here. We will work together. I do not look at that as anything that is going to affect how I'm relating with the county assembly. Thank you, Chair.
Well put. We are moving progressively well. We are moving towards the end of our questions, but we still have one member, senior most in this committee, who will give time to ask a question. I'm informed that she's okay and contented with the questions already put by the rest of the members. Then we have now come to formal end to these questions, unless any other honorable member has any question to supplement what we've already asked the nominee for Chief Officer, Administration and Disaster Management. Any member? Then silence means we are in good shape with the nominee. I will now come back to the nominee himself so that you give us your last words to this committee before we formally end the process. Welcome, Mr. Derick.
Chair, first and foremost, let me thank this committee most sincerely because of the opportunity to come and appear here and discuss these issues as the nominee for administration and disaster management. I want to undertake here that if approved by this committee, my office will be open I am a person, if you have anything, please come to my office. Please share it with me. My phone is, my line is on. We can discuss anything that concerns the people of Turkana in whichever area you are. And I will take that. So we will work together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Derick, for your precise answers to most of these questions. And as the chairperson of this committee, I want to wish you the very best as you await for the short process ahead of us, or the few steps ahead of us, whether to validate your nomination or not. Secondly, I want to thank the members of the public seated in the gallery for observing the rules that we started with. And I want to wish that you're welcome to this house, not only when we are doing the nomination as today, but any other time that you feel like there is a matter of importance to the people of the county, to the people of this county, that you need to live hear it and maybe watch it one-on-one. Otherwise, this is the end of our approval hearing. I wish the nominee all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.